Men, we spend so much time analyzing red flags, warning signs, and reasons to walk away that we completely overlook the positive indicators staring us directly in the face. The truth is, most men are so focused on whether she's attractive, whether there's chemistry, or whether she seems interested that they miss the green flags that actually predict relationship success. These aren't the obvious signs everyone talks about. These are the subtle behavioral patterns that reveal genuine character, emotional maturity, and relationship potential. These are the signals that separate women who will enhance your life from women who will complicate it. And most men walk right past them without even noticing. Today, I'm breaking down 5 green flags men consistently miss on first dates. These are the behaviors that reveal she's not just attractive or interesting, she's actually relationship material. She's someone who will add value to your life rather than drain it. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment saying, "I see the green," if you're ready to start recognizing quality women when they appear. Your engagement helps this message reach men who desperately need to hear it. Green flag. 1. She asks thoughtful questions about your life and actually listens to the answers. Here's something most men completely overlook: the quality of her questions and her attentiveness to your responses. When she asks you about your work, your interests, your goals, or your experiences, pay close attention to whether these are throwaway questions or genuine curiosity. Then watch what she does with your answers. What this actually reveals. This shows she's genuinely interested in understanding who you are as a person, not just filling conversational space or waiting for her turn to talk. Women who ask thoughtful follow-up questions, remember details you mentioned earlier in the conversation, and reference things you said, demonstrate active engagement with you as an individual. Notice the depth of her questions. Surface-level questions sound like, "What do you do?" Thoughtful questions sound like, "What drew you to that field?" or "What's the most challenging part of your work?" The difference reveals whether she's checking boxes or actually trying to understand your experience, motivations, and perspective. Watch whether she asks follow-up questions based on your answers. If you mention you're working on a challenging project and she asks what makes it challenging or how you're approaching it, she's processing what you said and wants to understand more. If she immediately shifts to a new topic or brings conversation back to herself, she's not genuinely engaged with understanding you. Pay attention to whether she remembers details from earlier in the conversation. If you mention your brother in the first 10 minutes and she references him later by asking how he's doing or connecting something you said to what you mentioned about him, she's retaining information about your life. Memory retention for details about you signals genuine interest and attention. Observe whether her questions reveal she's been listening or just waiting to speak. If she asks questions that show she heard and processed what you already said, she's engaged. If her questions ignore context you already provided or seem disconnected from the conversation flow, she's not fully present. Active listening is one of the strongest predictors of relationship success because it shows she values understanding you. Notice if she asks about your values, not just your circumstances. Questions about what matters to you, what you care about, what drives your decisions. These reveal she's evaluating compatibility on meaningful dimensions, not just surface attraction. Women who ask about values are thinking long-term about whether your worldviews align, which shows maturity and intentionality. Why most men miss this? Men miss this green flag because they're often so focused on impressing her, maintaining attraction, or managing their own nervousness that they don't evaluate whether she's genuinely interested in them. They're in performance mode rather than evaluation mode. They answer her questions without assessing the quality of those questions or her engagement with the answers. Additionally, many men have been conditioned to expect that they should do most of the questioning and pursuing. So, when a woman shows genuine curiosity about them, They don't recognize it as the valuable signal it is. They think it's normal or expected rather than a green flag that separates interested, emotionally mature women from self-absorbed ones. Green flag 2, she takes responsibility when small things go wrong. Here's a green flag, hiding in plain sight, how she responds when minor mishaps occur during the date. Maybe she's running a few minutes late. Maybe she makes a small mistake in conversation. Maybe the restaurant she suggested isn't great. Maybe she spills something or has a minor awkward moment. What this actually reveals: this shows she has accountability and emotional maturity. Women who can acknowledge mistakes, take responsibility without excessive drama, and move forward gracefully demonstrate the kind of character that builds healthy relationships. They don't deflect blame, make excuses, or turn small problems into big emotional events. Notice how she handles being late if it happens. Does she apologize genuinely and take responsibility? "I'm sorry, I didn't leave enough time." Or does she blame traffic, her previous appointment, her phone, or anything else external? Taking responsibility for lateness without excessive apologizing or excuse-making shows she can acknowledge when she's caused an inconvenience without making it a bigger deal than necessary. Watch how she responds if she misspeaks or makes a conversational error. If she realizes she said something incorrect or potentially offensive, does she own it and correct herself? Or does she double down, get defensive, or pretend it didn't happen? The ability to say, "Actually, I misspoke. What I meant was," demonstrates both self-awareness and willingness to correct course rather than protect ego. Pay attention to how she handles suggestions or choices that don't work out. If she recommended the restaurant and it turns out to be mediocre, does she acknowledge it wasn't great and suggest adjusting plans, or does she defend the choice or get embarrassed? Being able to say, "This place isn't what I expected, should we try somewhere else?" shows she can admit when something isn't working without shame or defensiveness. Observe whether small problems become dramatic events in her response. If a minor issue occurs and she responds proportionally, acknowledging it, handling it, moving on, that's emotional regulation. If small problems trigger disproportionate reactions, apologies, embarrassment, or drama, she hasn't developed the emotional maturity to handle normal life challenges without amplifying them. Notice if she can apologize appropriately. Healthy apologies are brief, sincere, and proportional to the issue. "I'm sorry I'm late," or "My apologies for that confusion." Over-apologizing. "I'm so sorry, I feel terrible, I can't believe I did that, I'm the worst." Or under-apologizing, no acknowledgement or dismissive minimizing, both indicate poor calibration of accountability. Why most men miss this? Men miss this because they're often so focused on being accommodating and making the date go smoothly that they don't evaluate how she handles small challenges. They rush to reassure her that everything's fine without noticing whether she took appropriate responsibility. They're so busy managing the situation that they don't assess her response as data about her character. Many men also have low standards for accountability because they're used to women who make excuses or deflect blame. When a woman actually takes responsibility for something small, it doesn't register as noteworthy because men don't realize how rare this quality actually is. They accept excuse-making as normal female behavior rather than recognizing accountability as the green flag it represents. Green flag 3. She's genuinely pleasant to everyone. Not just you. This is one of the most reliable green flags that exists, yet men constantly overlook it. How she treats people who can't do anything for her. Watch how she interacts with servers, bartenders, hosts, parking attendants, or anyone providing service. Notice how she treats strangers she encounters. Observe her behavior toward people who aren't part of your date. What this actually reveals: this shows her kindness is authentic character rather than strategic performance. Women who treat everyone with basic respect and pleasantness regardless of status or usefulness, demonstrate consistent good character. This is who she actually is when she's not trying to impress someone. The way she treats service staff, strangers, and bystanders is exactly how she'll eventually treat you once the honeymoon phase ends and you're no longer someone she needs to perform for. Notice whether she makes eye contact and acknowledges people. Does she thank the server genuinely? Does she say please when ordering? Does she treat the bartender like a human being or like furniture? These small behaviors reveal massive amounts about character. Women who can't be bothered to acknowledge service workers' humanity aren't kind people. They're people who perform kindness strategically. Watch her tone and body language with people outside your interaction. Is her voice and demeanor with the server similar to how she speaks with you, or does it shift to something dismissive or entitled? If there's a dramatic difference in warmth, respect, or patience, the version you're getting is performance, and the version service staff gets is authentic. Pay attention to whether she shows patience with normal service delays or mistakes. If the order takes a bit longer, or something isn't quite right, does she handle it with understanding and grace, or does she show irritation and entitlement? Patience with service imperfections reveals emotional regulation and realistic expectations about other humans doing their jobs. Observe if she's kind to strangers in passing. If someone holds a door, does she say thank you? If she accidentally bumps someone, does she apologize? If she needs to get past someone, does she say excuse me politely? These micro-interactions reveal automatic social behavior that hasn't been thought through or performed. It's just who she is when she's navigating the world. Notice whether she gossips about or judges strangers. If she makes negative comments about other diners, criticizes how someone looks or behaves, or points out flaws in people around you, she's showing you how she thinks about people generally. She's revealing a judgmental, critical mindset. If she can be unkind about strangers, she'll eventually be unkind about you to others. Why most men miss this? Men miss this green flag because they're focused on how she's treating them, not how she's treating others. They're in the interaction bubble with her and not observing her behavior toward the broader environment. They're so focused on whether she likes them that they don't notice whether she's a fundamentally kind person. Additionally, many men rationalize poor treatment of service staff or strangers as not being a big deal or not being relevant to how she'll treat a partner. They compartmentalize her rudeness to others as separate from her potential as a partner, not realizing that character is consistent. How she treats people who can't benefit her is exactly how she'll treat you when you can't benefit her anymore. Green flag 4. She has her own life, interests, and plans. Here's a green flag that seems counterintuitive but is absolutely critical. She's not overly available or desperate to lock down future plans immediately. She has her own life happening. She mentions commitments with friends, family activities, personal hobbies, work projects, or goals she's pursuing. She's engaged with her own existence beyond dating. What this actually reveals: this shows she has healthy independence and a full life that doesn't revolve around male attention or relationships. Women who have their own interests, friendships, and goals bring more to a relationship because they're complete people rather than empty vessels waiting for a man to provide identity and purpose. They're not desperately seeking a relationship to fill a void. They're open to a relationship that enhances an already fulfilling life. Notice if she mentions activities and commitments in her life naturally. If she talks about plans with friends, family events she's attending, hobbies she pursues, or personal projects she's working on, she has a life beyond seeking romantic relationships. This predicts she won't become clingy, dependent, or suffocating because she has her own fulfillment sources. Watch whether she's appropriately unavailable sometimes. If she can't do every day you suggest because she already has commitments, that's healthy boundaries and an actual life. Women who are available any time, any day, at any notice, have empty calendars because they have empty lives. Women with full lives have to coordinate schedules, which is a positive indicator. Pay attention to whether her interests are genuine pursuits or performance. If she mentions hobbies and you ask follow-up questions, does she light up and share genuine enthusiasm and knowledge? Or does it feel surface level, like she's listing things that sound good? Real interests come with real engagement, stories, and knowledge depth. Observe if she has meaningful friendships she maintains. Does she mention friends with warmth and specific stories, or are friends vague background characters? Women with real friendships have support systems, social skills, and the ability to maintain relationships. Women without close friends often lack the emotional skills needed for healthy relationships. Notice whether she's pursuing goals or just existing. Does she mention career ambitions, personal growth areas, skills she's developing, or things she's working toward? Women who are actively building their lives are partners who will grow alongside you rather than stagnate or depend on you for all stimulation and purpose. Why most men miss this? Men miss this green flag because they often interpret availability and focus on them as high interest, which they want. They see a woman who's very available and focused entirely on them as a positive signal that she's really into them. They don't realize that healthy women with full lives aren't desperate for male attention and won't drop everything for a first date. Many men have been taught that women who are too independent or too busy might not be interested enough, so they actually view signs of a full life as potential rejection rather than green flags. They want her to be available and focused on them, not recognizing that women who are too available and too focused too quickly are showing desperation, not genuine interest. Green flag 5, she can disagree with you respectfully about small things. This is perhaps the most overlooked green flag of all. She doesn't agree with everything you say. She has her own opinions. When you express a preference or viewpoint and she genuinely disagrees, she can express that disagreement in a respectful, non-confrontational way. She doesn't people-please by pretending to share all your views, but she also doesn't turn disagreement into conflict. What this actually reveals, this shows she has a genuine sense of self and healthy communication skills. Women who agree with everything you say are either people-pleasing to gain approval or don't have real opinions and preferences of their own. Women who can respectfully disagree demonstrate they're comfortable being authentic rather than performing an agreeable persona to keep you interested. Notice when small disagreements arise naturally. Maybe you suggest Italian food, and she expresses she'd prefer something else. Maybe you mention a movie you loved, and she shares she didn't enjoy it as much. Maybe you express an opinion, and she offers a different perspective. These moments reveal how she navigates difference. Watch how she expresses disagreement. Does she do it respectfully? I actually see it a bit differently, or I'm not as into that, but I can see why you like it. Or does she get defensive, dismissive, or argumentative? Healthy disagreement maintains respect for your perspective while expressing her own. Unhealthy disagreement either suppresses itself or becomes combative. Pay attention to whether disagreement feels comfortable or tense. If she can disagree about something minor, and the energy stays light and even playful, she's comfortable with difference and doesn't need agreement to maintain connection. If disagreement creates tension or awkwardness, she's uncomfortable with conflict, which predicts she'll either people-please and build resentment or turn minor differences into major issues. Observe whether she can maintain her preference without dismissing yours. If you like something and she doesn't, can she hold both truths comfortably? I'm not into that personally, but it's cool that you are is healthy. I don't see how anyone could like that, dismisses your preference. The ability to respect difference predicts relationship harmony. Notice if she asks questions to understand your perspective when you disagree. If you have different views, and she's curious about why you think that way, rather than just asserting her view, She's engaged in understanding rather than winning. Curiosity about different perspectives shows emotional maturity and genuine interest in how you think. Why most men miss this? Men miss this green flag because they often interpret agreement as compatibility and disagreement as potential conflict. They want her to like what they like and share their views because it feels validating and easy. They don't realize that women who agree with everything are performing rather than being authentic, and that performance will eventually crack. Many men have been conditioned to avoid conflict and seek harmony, so when a woman disagrees with them, even respectfully, they see it as a negative rather than recognizing it as a sign she's comfortable being genuine. They want the comfort of agreement rather than the authenticity of someone who has their own mind and can express it respectfully.